most athletes want to be heard. I think at that point, as sports psychologists, we really help athletes identify what next. So I used to feel really anxious. I couldn't sleep at night, and one thing I never shared with even my parents during my playing years, I used to throw up before a round of golf. I think everyone's looking for that quick fix where mental health is concerned. It doesn't, to be honest. If you see a few athletes, no two athletes will have the same pre-performance routine.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Women in Sport powered by Wordswork and the Global Institute of Sports Business. Today we're going to talk about something really important, that is the mental health of our athletes. Sports psychology is a subject that has come up as a very important aspect of an athlete's performance, and who better to shed light on this topic than Dr. Nanki Chanda, who's been in the business of sports psychology for the past 10 years. Let's talk to her more to understand why it is important to give importance to sports psychology in the world of athletes and sports.
Nanki, thank you so much for joining us today in Women in Sports.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And for us, this is probably one of the most important topics that we will be touching upon right now. I think everyone that I've had of the podcast till now, at some point in the conversation, has talked about the aspect of mental health and mental well-being of athletes. And we wanted to get into that, and who better than you to talk us through this entire process. But before we get into the topic, we want to know more about you. So I wanted to dive back to your journey. You said you started a career in sports and at a very young age as well. So how were the early years like when you were an athlete?
So yes, I've been an athlete. I started playing tennis at the age of 8. Played competitively for a few years as a junior, but then soon I shifted my focus to golf. So I have mainly been a golfer, played at the national level and the international level for approximate 12 years. But I didn't continue turning pro. I think for me, I played at the IGU level, and then I couldn't turn pro just because I couldn't handle the pressure. I used to crumble under pressure. So that's when I would say I stopped playing sport and ventured into sports psychology and really understanding the mindset and the mental health within sport. So that's been my journey. Yeah.
So it's interesting you say that your own experience in being an athlete led you to want to understand more about the mental health aspects of it. Can you talk a bit more about what happened? You yourself being an athlete, and you talked about crumbling under pressure. Is that something athletes don't talk much about? And what was your personal experience which led you to wanting to do this from a career point of view?
So, like I said, crumbling under pressure. So I used to feel really anxious. I couldn't sleep at night. And one thing I never shared with even my parents during my playing years, I used to throw up before a round of golf.
That's a sign of anxiety.
Absolutely. Like so much anxiety that I wake up and I throw up. And at that point in time, I couldn't really understand what was going on. I was like, what are these physiological things happening to me? And I did try finding a sports psychologist at that point in time who could help me with the pressure, but there was nobody, unfortunately, qualified within the country. So those were my personal symptoms or experiences. And when actually after my journey within a competitive sport, and when I actually took a gap year to figure out, do I really want to turn professional or not? And I decided against the idea because I felt I could contribute better from my own personal experience and actually understand the human mind better. And that's when I went to the UK to study further and really understand where does the pressure, emotions really come from. Because like your question, do athletes talk about it? I think from my time to now, there's more awareness, more openness, talking more about it. But when I was playing, I don't think anyone really shared their experiences or the pressure that they felt.
So it was even recognized for that matter. I mean, it's only very recently, since probably the last Olympic cycle, where athletes are openly talking about aspects like mental health and certain other sports like golf, where it comes out very evidently on the athlete's mindset is actually where their own performance comes through.
Yeah.
So how much of it is in the mind and how much of it is the physical performance? And I know there's a balance between the two, but where are those challenges? Like the balance between the physical aspects and the mental aspects of being a sports person?
I would say, I think, like you said, now since the last Olympic cycle, everyone's recognizing the importance of it. But I still feel the implementation or the commitment to mental health is still not a priority where compared to the physical or the technical aspect of the game. I'm not saying athletes are not coming forefront and addressing this aspect, but like an athlete trains regularly from morning till night on their technical or the physical aspect, I think mental aspect is still not prioritized and a little overlooked.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that now is actually showing up in the kind of results we're seeing? Because everyone observed the last Olympic that happened within this year. There are a couple of people, quite a few people from our Indian contingent who missed by a whisker, who came fourth, who missed by a few seconds. So clearly it wasn't that much of a challenge on the physical aspects of the performance because they were almost there.
Yeah.
But those last few minutes and seconds is less about that and more about where you are in your mind space.
Absolutely, and I'd love to share a recent story without naming the athlete. A para athlete who won a gold medal for the country. And in his recent speech or my interaction with him, he actually said that towards the final game point, it was all mental. He was so much under pressure and he was facing an opponent world number one, which he has faced 8 times in the past, but he's always lost. So actually going into the event, before the Olympics, he actually realized that, okay, I need to really invest more time where the mental aspect of the game is concerned. Because I've reached the final with this athlete 8 times. Physically, I'm fit. And in his preparation, that's exactly what he said. He said, though, I think this time what was different was my mental state of being. So, like I said, like we were talking about, more and more athletes are realizing the importance. And the beauty about this case is that he actually implemented it when it was needed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think we really wish more athletes, and I think more than the athletes, the sports ecosystem needs to understand the importance of the mental health coaching and the training that goes hand in hand, apparently, to the physical aspects of it. How much do you think India has evolved? And of course, you've experienced the British system of how things are. So how would you compare and contrast what we learned there as best practices to where you can apply yourself here now? And where does it need to apply in the ecosystem? Is it the federation level? Is it on SAI level? Or is it also individual athletes or private entities as well? So both aspects, if you could just tell us more about what's happening globally and what you wish to see here as well.
Yeah. Like globally, I think where the challenges are concerned in terms of the athlete are very similar. But like abroad, it's more the ecosystem, like you said. Everyone's working in collaboration, whether it's the coaches, organizations, federations, support staff. It's all coming together to actually create a psychologically safe environment for the athlete in which the athlete can flourish. I think if we compare India to it, I would say we are all working in isolation. Yeah, we are all working in isolation. So I think it's really important for all of us to come together and build that collaborative approach towards the well-being of the athlete. Because I think it takes the entire support team, and whether it's the organization, coaches, even parents for that matter, to build that psychologically safe environment where the athlete can flourish. So, yeah.
And I think we are also limiting our take on this on the innate level. But like you said, when you mentioned parents, it starts at the younger age, right? And what I've observed of, for example, tennis stars, the ones who start very young, started very young as well. And when you talk to them, there is a lot of unexplained pressures that they faced when they were younger, because having faced that, no athlete has a normal or a regular mainstream childhood. So I think for them to cope with those pressures also of going through adolescence and down those stages, but as a sports person, that's probably where the mental health aspects already start kicking in and where you need to apply those.
Absolutely. And we have to see with an athlete, it's not only their sport. There's other aspects also. There are environmental factors that play into it. The organizational factor, like you said, the sporting organizations or your SAI. Environment by environment, what I mean is your coaches, parents, your peers. So it's not only they're dealing with their performance issues, but they're also dealing with everything around them. So it's really, really important to, I feel, prioritize mental health to manage the different demands that athletes have on them.
And just to apply it specifically to sports, we all know that mental health, looking at things like counseling, people are now opening up to talking about these kind of things. How does it get into a more specialized way when it comes to sports? So what are the differentiated aspects that kick in when you're looking at the subject of mental health and then applying it to the field of sports?
Yeah. No, that's a very important question also. So where sports psychology is concerned, the principles of psychology remain pretty much the same. But as sports psychologists, we are very much focusing on the performance element in terms of getting them what it takes for an athlete to go out there and perform to their optimal level. Whereas the other psychology fields or aspects can also be a little more generic, going into their personal life. Yeah.
So here it's all about the field performance, how they're being able to optimize themselves as far as their performance are concerned.
Absolutely. And one more thing, apart from performance, a big part of sports psychology is the well-being aspect, which we never talk about. So just by the
difference. So when you say, you had mentioned this earlier, that it's about well-being as well as health coaching, how would you define well-being differently?
So by well-being, like some aspects I would talk about is sleep quality. Is the athlete able to sleep? Burnout. I think athletes train so much that physically they are burnt out. Recovery is not 100%, and I see that a lot of times. So can we prevent that from happening? And one big aspect is enjoyment. Are they enjoying their sport? Because I feel initially they put into sport for the enjoyment factor. But then suddenly, as they get more and more competitive and things are more at stake, somewhere our kids really losing the enjoyment. The pressure is there. And that's where all your anxiety and extreme emotions come in.
So coming back to the UK example, and you spent a good amount of time over there, how has this entire segment developed over there, and what were your key learnings and observations?
For me, the biggest key learning there was just the first and foremost is to gain that trust from the athlete, because without trust, we can't proceed further. And again, like I'm emphasizing on the word psychologically safe environment, that they feel comfortable speaking to you, opening up to you with whatever challenges they face. And one very important thing I learned was that somewhere silence is golden. So sometimes when athletes are coming, it's not always about giving them something to do or a solution. Sometimes they just want to get away from all the difficulties of what they are facing in their sporting environment or personal life, and they just want to come and just talk through that, or just spend more time with themselves, which, you know, like if we talk about the elite athletes with social media in today's day and age, where is that space to just be by themselves?
There's a constant futility in today's world where nothing is hidden. Your entire, especially as an athlete or a celebrity, your life is public.
Yeah.
And I know some international athletes have talked about it, and now people like Virat, for example, are talking about it as well. Do you think that's healthy that athletes themselves are now coming out there and saying that, yes, we are human and there are certain aspects that we need to also take care of? Does that help to set those boundaries for them to work within and get into a slightly more healthier mental state?
I think it's very, very important, and I'm extremely glad that specifically Indian athletes are coming out and talking about it, because that will be a big thing to break the stigma. Like I mentioned earlier, we've come a long way talking about mental health. Athletes are opening up more, which was not the case a few years back. And the more younger kids are getting into the sport, I think when these athletes open up about mental health, it'll make a big difference to the younger generation that's coming forward.
Absolutely. And, we were talking about how it's important to start young because of the trust factor.
Yeah.
So when it comes to individual athletes, I guess that's something one can look at where, you start young and then you take that journey with the athlete. Where are the challenges on team sport, and have you worked on the whole team dynamics? Because that's a very different thing altogether, and logically also to bring them together. You can look at group sessions as well, or do you always work with athletes individually?
So within the team, I think it's a bit more challenging, I would say, to get everyone on the same page. And I'm not just talking about the athletes. I'm talking about the other support staff, the coaches, and of course the organization as well. I worked mostly with independent athletes, but yeah, I've had some experience working within a team setting. And I would say my biggest challenge has been bringing everyone on board, together. Because if we talk about challenges within a team, you have conflict management. So a lot of work needs to be done on team building activities, because everyone has to work towards a common goal. Everyone cannot be in different directions. You have to work towards a common goal and be on the same page to excel.
And when it comes to sports as well, I've noticed that when it comes to performance, at a certain point in time, and this is probably more enhanced in certain sport, I have seen the athlete getting into a zone or sometimes even a tunnel vision in more sports, for example. So do you help with that in terms of how do they mentally shift focus and get into that space where they can see nothing else but that end target? Because that happens to them.
Yeah.
But how much of the mind works in that direction, or what happens to the mind? You studied that.
Of course. And again, sports psychology is not a quick fix. So a lot of my work with athletes has been over a longer duration. And like you said, in the crucial moments just before they enter their match or the court, just zoning in. So that's actually the preparation that we've done with the athletes over months or years, practicing it in their day-to-day life and actually then implementing it. So what techniques work for athletes? Now, I don't work on the concept one size fits all. What might work for one athlete might not work for the other. So it's a long process of finding what works for that specific athlete. If you see a few athletes, no two athletes will have the same pre-performance routine. You will see somebody with their headphones on, listening to music, somebody breathing or doing their meditation, breathing exercises, somebody being more chit-chatty. Yeah. So everyone has very different behaviors, the way they behave just before.
And you don't want to change that, you just want to enhance that for them, for it to work better.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because what I believe is if it's not tried and tested before, suddenly on competition day, it's not magic. It's not going to work. So it's trying, testing what works for them and applying it in those crucial moments.
Absolutely. So India is now at a place where we've changed a lot on sports side as well. There's a lot of focus on sports now. And a lot of people are working towards performances. And in certain sectors, we are achieving goals as well. Do you think, however, it's that last mile piece that we really now need to focus on? What's your observation on from a mental health perspective? Where is this whole collective ecosystem of our athletes headed to, and do they have scope to work on it to get to that final level that they're trying to get to in terms of results?
Of course, there is a lot of scope for that. It's all about how are they aware of it. I think we really need to start with the awareness aspect and clarify what mental health and sports psychology really is. Because I think collectively we can come together when we really have a better understanding. I still feel somewhere we are a bit hesitant. If we have a physical health issue, we'll definitely go to the doctor. And we see it as a physical health, not as illness. But when we use the word mental health, automatically we are seeing it as an illness. But the word is health.
So it's getting stigmatized for no reason for that.
Yeah. Also because I personally feel it might be because it's not tangible. We can't see the problem. Whereas within a physical element, we can see. So I guess that's where we need to work a little so that collectively we all come together and push it out there.
I noticed quite a few years ago when one of the visiting teams had come from hockey. Along with the contingent was the team's official psychologist traveling with media from the country. So I think that is normal practice across various sports abroad. Do you think that's something we also need to start applying now across sport, and it needs to be applied on that larger level? for our athletes.
Of course, and we have started. I would say, like if I'm not wrong, the IPL teams have sports psychologists working with them. Like you said, the Indian hockey team. I think Paddy Upton was working with them, and he was before working with the Indian cricket team. So we have individuals who are there on ground, but I think we need more and more people, like you said, across sports.
And sometimes it's relatability too, right? So there are a lot of global experts on the coaching side, for example, who have been brought down here to give the best possible to our athletes. But when it comes to psychology, how much of it is nuanced? Because I know there's a bit of localized context that many times the global experts may or may not understand. So does it help to have a more local talent pool in this space to kind of have that uptake of the athletes?
I would completely agree with that, because if we see India, the different languages, the culture is very different. Yeah, you have different cultures, backgrounds, and yeah, I don't
see socio-cultural nuances. Sometimes to understand that, you have to be from here probably to get that. Is the talent growing in this space? I know you've had this unique opportunity and you're one of the few people I've met who's gone and specialized in the field. But is there scope for more people to come in here, and is there some sort of an education that is required? If you could just talk a bit about that as well, because I'm seeing that there is huge scope for more people to come.
Definitely. Actually, more and more people are pursuing this field. But unfortunately, we don't have a specialized master's program in India. Now, if I'm not wrong, we have a few universities having modules in sports psychology. But I don't think we have a detailed and a comprehensive master's program. So more and more people actually are going abroad, doing the specialization and coming back in India. So we have quite a few people pursuing the field, and I think every year we have the number also growing in terms of the people actually pursuing the field.
That's a healthy sign.
Absolutely.
So I want to now dive into what you feel basis observation. So there's a certain way all of our minds work. How different is an athlete's mind?
Yeah. So again, an athlete, like I said, I approach an athlete as human first, performer later. But where the performance element is concerned, they are doing extra than a normal human being would be doing. If I talk about younger kids, they are managing their sport, managing school, managing their other extracurricular activities. And even at an elite level, athletes are managing, like I said, the environment that they are in, so their personal issues, alongside their sporting pressures. So I think an athlete is dealing with a lot more on a day-to-day basis, and I think we perceive them to be superhumans somewhere, which adds more pressure onto them. Let's look at the Olympics. It happens once in 4 years, but suddenly the entire country is watching them. So they're not only carrying their own expectations, but they're carrying the expectations on their shoulders.
I think that ability to handle pressure is required in many notches more. When it comes to athletes, due to expectations, due to things like external factors, of course. And I guess also their own expectations of themselves. I've seen athletes being very hard on themselves also. They can't perform or they cannot compete and they get frustrated. So I think being able to handle failure is also a very important coping mechanism that you probably have done with.
Absolutely. And also the sporting arena, if we see, promotes the notion that an athlete should either win or lose, and that being mediocre is actually unacceptable. So there's constant, I think it's a race for being a perfectionist, which is a big issue where mental health is concerned.
Correct. There's no scope for being that average person as far as being an athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about what I say is the rigid demand that the sporting ecosystem puts on the athletes, and the athletes then them on themselves. That rigid demand would be, I have to win, I must win. And if I don't, I'm a complete failure or I'm not good enough. So a lot of times their identity is attached to their result.
So what's that differentiating factor between a good athlete and a winning athlete? And a lot of it you said also was probably enjoying the sport or enjoying that moment. And I think once they take away that state and enjoy it,
Yeah.
apart from obviously various other aspects. What do you think is that tipping point where you observe that this is a winning athlete and this is that trait that makes him or her the winning athlete?
I think for me, the biggest trait would be mental resilience of how can you handle the pressure. And more than anything, also bounce back from failure. Because in sport, you will fail. There will be ups and downs. But when you're at your weakest point, how do you really bounce back?
That makes all the difference.
Yeah.
I think Abhinav would be a great example over here because he had years and years of wanting to get somewhere and he didn't get there. And then he finally did get there.
Absolutely.
So what would you observe of a journey like that?
I think it's been an extremely inspirational journey, and he is an inspiration to a lot of us and the kids as well, and he talks a lot about mental health. And I think he is one of the biggest advocates where mental health is concerned. And I remember I was at an event in Bangalore, and he was a speaker, and he actually said he didn't like competing. So for me, that was a bit of, I think...
That's surprising coming from an athlete whose purpose is to compete.
Absolutely. And going and winning a gold at the Olympics. And that resonated with me on a personal level as well, because as an athlete, I did not enjoy competing, to be honest, because of the pressure. So the pressure that the sport brought with it wasn't really the enjoyable part. But after that also, he being dedicated and achieving what he did, I think is extremely, extremely inspirational.
That ability to wear those horse lines and just go towards what you're doing, but it should be a goal that you're convinced about as well.
Absolutely, because at the end, you are the one working every day, putting in the effort. So it has to come from within and you wanting to achieve it and do it. So it has to be.
People talk about failure and how to cope with it and all about those aspects, but there's also this thing about coping with success. So when people win and then the lull after the storm, so we see it a lot with Olympic athletes, and we also know as professionals that there's this season that they're capping into and then you don't know what happens after that. So that phase of not knowing what happens after that is that lull that comes through after success.
Yeah.
How important is mental health and what is the role over there for them to actually take it from there and then take it to the next level? Because it does take a toll on you to achieve so much in a very compressed amount of time.
Yeah.
And then decompress from that as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like you said, once you've achieved that particular goal and in the lull moment, you're like, what next? So I think it's important. I think at that point, as sports psychologists, we really help athletes identify what next goal they want to achieve, a long-term goal. And because, again, a goal would help you with a sense of direction, and that will keep you motivated.
You still need that sense of purpose, which was very focused to that one point in time.
Yeah.
So then you have to start off again, right?
Absolutely. So I think after achieving one of their goals, it's about, okay, what next? And again, making that plan for them and that pressing that reset button in terms of what next they would like to achieve.
So tell me, how important is it for the mainstream coaching ecosystem to work in close relations with the mental health coaches? Because I know it comes together to a large extent. One feeds off the other. Are you also working with coaches to help develop the combined aspect of how to train these athletes going forward?
Yeah, very recently I have started giving workshops to coaches, making them understand about mental health in sport. So like I said, creating more awareness. Now what we need to understand is coach is pretty much the head. He is on the driving seat and we are working around him and the athlete. So it's very, very important to have the coach with us. Now, as a sports psychologist, I can say I might interact with the athlete once a week, twice a month. So it's very important for me to work closely with the coach so that the principles or the things that I'm wanting to give to the athlete or work with, the coach is also implementing those on a day-to-day basis. So it's very, very important. Often what coaches feel is that if we bring in a sports psychologist, their importance would be taken away. But that's something I'm really working towards, breaking the stigma among coaches, that we are there to support you and the athlete.
It's not going to impact performance. It's not going to distract them. It in fact enhances the performance and makes them more.
Yeah, if you see, like, coaches also work really hard, like the athletes. So even they have pressure on them before an important match. So they are also going through emotions of experiencing that anxiety. So how we can also help coaches and look after their own mental health. Like, I personally believe one cannot pour out of an empty cup. So how does the coach also reserve their own energy and look after their own mental health so that they can support the athlete in a more effective way as well? So, yeah.
Whatever you faced in now, of course, you work with various athletes and organizations. But what are the challenges? What are the biggest misconceptions that people may have at this point? I know people are talking about it on a very peripheral level, and it's a great, I don't even want to say buzzword, but it has become a buzzword, though it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because it's something very important and serious. But genuinely, on the ground zero level, where are those challenges right now in terms of what people's perceptions are as to what you should be doing versus what you actually need to do?
I would say, again, I think everyone's looking for that quick fix where mental health is concerned. Yeah, it's last minute, cramping up. Okay, we are set technically, we've done everything physically, now let's quickly get our mind sorted, or the mental aspect of the game. It doesn't, to be honest. And again, like I said, the biggest challenge is it's not tangible. So like when an athlete is working on their technique, they can measure that by recording it. Physical fitness, when you go to the gym, first day compared to after 3 months, you can see your body transforming. But where the mind is concerned, how does one know that
It's just like collated response on result. That is really tangible. We
Yeah,
get it.
yeah, absolutely.
How they're handling the pressure, how mental they're handling tough situations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, like you said, the score, but also the well-being aspect that, okay, if I had issues with my sleep, am I sleeping better? Am I more mentally relaxed?
Am I enjoying the sport more?
Yes, absolutely. The enjoyment factor, absolutely.
Because honestly, when we are interviewing all these athletes, we can clearly tell which are the ones who are genuinely enjoying the moment and which are the ones who want to run away
Yeah.
from us. So I think that's what distinguishes then the good entire package of an athlete vis-a-vis the one who has certain pockets to be worn.
Yeah.
But it's a dichotomy, right? You're saying everyone comes in on the last mile, but isn't what you're doing very dependent on building trust and a relationship over time? Because nobody will open up in a last minute situation in any case.
Yeah.
You need to work with them over time. So in terms of tangibility, and I know you can't put a number to this, but how long do you really need to work with an athlete for them to have tangible results from the kind of work and impact of the work that you're doing with them?
That's a very good question. And like you said, I can't put a definite period. But definitely, I would say I've had athletes who've come to me and worked with me for 6 months and seen results. Also, I am working with athletes who've been with me for over a year. But I'm not saying 6 months versus 1 year. It's all about implementation outside those sessions. Are we implementing it outside our sessions on a regular basis? And my main aim is to make the athlete independent. So initially, I work with athletes more on a regular basis, but once the athletes feel they can handle pressure on their own, are more emotionally regulated, then we start increasing the gap between athletes. And then towards the end, it's more like check-in sessions. Is there something you want to talk about? Are you doing good?
So that's the journey.
That's a journey. Yeah. So being regular and then phasing it out, but being there as a support. So they know that, okay, if any concern, one is available. Yeah.
So while on our Olympic athletes side, of course, there are these pressures on performance and getting medals. If I were to look at cricket, there are very different pressures over there altogether, where of course making it to the team is the first level we crossed. And I think a lot of people assume that once I made it to the team, I made it. And then of course come other things like, IPL, how much you're auctioned at, how many endorsements you're getting. There's a lot of external commercial aspects also that come into play. Controversies come into play as well, because cricketers are seen as celebrities as well. So in whatever work that happens with cricketers, because that is the core sport of India, where do you think the mental health aspect is over there as far as our cricketing ecosystem is concerned today, maybe a year, and where we're headed?
Like I mentioned, I think we are focusing on it. We do have few sports psychologists working with the IPL teams. But still, I feel somewhere the mental health aspect is lost. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've really, when IPL happens, it's again, like you said, performance, auction, limited time frame. So how can we best and of course, players from all over, overseas as well. So that becomes a challenge for any sports psychologist to work with the team over a longer period of time.
So you're already up against a very difficult task of a limited time frame with various different individuals, so maybe coming from very different places altogether.
Exactly.
So isn't the better way to work with an individual athlete, for example, in cricket also, over a certain span of their career to see them also jump from space to space rather than event to event?
Absolutely. Yeah, it has to be with one athlete over a period of time. And what I feel is when these athletes come together, that's when more from a team dynamic perspective, the work can happen, rather than taking individual athletes and intervening at that point in time. Because I don't think with such hectic schedules, they really have the time and the bandwidth as well.
Everything's getting crammed into the same time frame, and we see how busy these and these schedules are. But now the league culture is growing because in a way it makes sense because it brings in more inclusion into a sport. It brings more involvement, builds a culture for the sport as well. So overall, all ticks there. But if you look at it from a mental health point of view, in a very short window of time, you're putting together sometimes strangers and people, and you expect them to work as a team.
Yeah.
And that team changes here. So that dynamic also can't grow and that bond can't grow beyond a point because then again you have to start a new dynamic.
Yeah.
So while it's very exciting for the viewer,
Yeah.
I think for the athlete it must be challenging, I'm guessing, to start afresh every time. And they're now not just playing one league in a year, they're playing 4 or 5 leagues sometimes throughout. Different teams, different dynamics, but yet they're expected to come together and perform as a collective. So do you think that's a challenge? Because I know leagues are only growing now, but I've noticed that that's the one thing that actually separates them from the others, where there is no progression.
Yeah.
Every time you're just hitting something new together.
Absolutely. And that is a big challenge, I would say, from a mental health expert as well and from any other support staff as well. Like you said, the trust.
Bringing them together.
Exactly. That takes time. So in that short period of time, how quickly are we able to bring in that trust element or build those relationships in general?
I've noticed many times athletes feed off each other as well. So sometimes you say that that's a good pair or that's a good set of athletes who come together well. Do you think the interdynamics also play an important role from a mental health perspective where they can feed off each other's performances and experiences? What makes good friends in the world of sports?
Of course, like I said, we've been talking about performance, where another element of sport is that team cohesion or that conflict management. So 2 people coming together, playing, setting aside their individual goals, but actually playing towards that common goal takes, I think in some cases it works. It's very, very important. And I feel that's an element that also we need to start pushing towards. When to switch on, when to switch off. Because I feel a lot of mental health concerns are happening when the athlete struggles to switch off. They don't know where to draw that boundary. Again, the work-life balance, right?
Yeah.
It's all work.
Even for us, I think the athletes that stand out and who also sometimes achieve commercial success are the ones who are able to switch off, have a good time, get more articulate with themselves.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of differentiates them apart as well and works for them in the long run. You've done some research when you were studying in UK, which of course you're applying now in your practice as well. Can you talk a bit about that?
Sure. So my research was mainly in terms of understanding where emotions come from. So when an athlete is as simple as from 1 week before, as the competition approaches, emotions intensify. So where do those emotions really come from? Why is that variation? And and my research actually showed it's all about the demanding nature, which I spoke about earlier. It's that rigid expectations the irrational way of thinking, I would call it, that I must win, I have to win. If I don't, it's the end of my career, end of the world. Which, like you said, with IPL, if you don't perform, that constant fear, I have to perform, and if I don't, I'll be dropped off from the team, or I won't be picked up in the next auction. So, mostly the environment, sporting environment, feeds in or generates this notion that you have to, must, need to, should. And an athlete cannot fail. And so my research was a lot on that. Deep down thought process, the belief system, as simple as childhood. Is it coming from parents? And then kind of coming up with an intervention of how I can myself support athletes in a better way, change their demanding nature to a more flexible nature. That okay, not taking away their goal from them, the winning still remains. Rather than wanting it, must, could we say I would like to have it? I want to have it. I hope, I wish. Again, the goal remains the same, but how we talk to ourselves makes that difference.
Often does that take away from that extreme desire to succeed?
That's actually a very good point, and a lot of time that's the resistance I face with some clients.
Yeah, because sometimes they just feel that I have to think this way to be able to get to where I want.
Yes, and a very important question, because there is another element to it. Yes, you can keep the demand to yourself. I won't tell the athlete or forcefully say, okay, let's remove the demand. You have to, because that's where even I'll be demanding from the athlete. But it's okay. You have to win. But the question comes to how.
Focus more on that.
Exactly. I can say I have to win. But then are we kind of telling ourselves, okay, I would like to win. I have to win. But by doing these things. Or rather than just fixating over the win. Because the more we fixate over the win, we are losing focus from what exactly needs to be done.
You're just focused on what your end goal is, but not the journey you need to reach.
Absolutely. And it was very interesting talking about cricket, Bumrah. It was in the newspaper actually, where I think somebody interviewed him, and he actually said that when he is going to bowl, of course his aim is to take wickets, but he's going more on the process, on the controllables, that what are the things that he needs to do within his control, deliver, and automatically the result will come.
So the result needs to be a byproduct of your process.
Exactly. But
to help them actually separate the two out and not reel in the whole thought of what ifs and, what will happen if I don't succeed, that kind of thought process needs to be eliminated from them.
exactly.
And is that what leads to this whole last minute crumbling under pressure and those kind of aspects that you see kick in? Sometimes you see it on broadcast as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we talk about process. But are the athletes really clear what the process looks like? So it's all about clarity. That, we are talking about outcome second, process first. But do we have clarity in our mind what exactly that process looks like? So towards the end, the individuals who have clarity on the process are able to commit to it. But any doubt, then...
a lot of them find their coaches to be more than just coaches, but also confident. So I think for the coaches to be equipped to take them on that journey of process versus result and reading over result is something where I guess you're coaching the coach.
Trying my best.
I'm sure you're doing a great job. It's a very important job to be done, because I think that is where we keep talking about India having results. But a big part of that is what will it take for us to have results as well. And this is a very important part of that, because I think as far as other aspects are concerned, the country is doing its work, with corporate support coming, government support coming, enough training camps available, enough competitions coming in as well. But I think that last mile bit is what we really need to now jump into. But ironically, the last mile can't be a last mile.
Yeah, it can't be.
Know what that process is for each of the athletes that you work with. How much of the technical knowledge do you need of the sport that they're playing? Because I know you're an athlete, so it comes to you a little more naturally. But how technical does it get?
Actually, a very interesting question. And when I was getting into the field, that's a question I had. How in depth do I really need to go into?
You're working with multiple different disciplines, right?
Yeah. So I do go into these sports and try understanding the basic stuff. I don't need to get too technical. Also, I use getting to know the sport as a more rapport building activity with athletes. I think it's worked beautifully for me where I'm not aware of a sport. I've done a bit of research on it, but the athlete really taking me through the sport, explaining
Them to open up to you in that process. Okay.
exactly and explaining. I think most athletes want to be heard. So this process really helps me where they are explaining their sport to me. And they actually like that, okay, somebody is interested in our sport. They want to know more about us apart from what we've come to them for. They really want to understand our environment. Absolutely. They absolutely do that.
Do you think some sports require, maybe a silly question, but do some sports require more of a mental health aspect to be important than others? Is that the case when you're comparing sport to sport?
I don't think so. Yes, and I think every sport has its own challenges. So I won't say one sport has more challenges than the other. Also, every individual is different. So I wouldn't want to say one athlete has more challenges than the others. It's all about their own individual concerns. And I think every sport has its own challenges. Every sport has that notion of winning. There's no sport, or in general, in your day-to-day life also. Yeah. So in terms of the pressure, I feel it's the same. It's all about helping athletes manage those expectations, and the amount of pressure they put on themselves is the key.
Is there any country in your observation where this has worked for them? Like I have seen when they're competing with certain countries, and I'll give you an example of Australia for the lack of a better one, where they come in with that attitude that I'm going to win this, right?
Yeah.
So where is that coming from? And do you think sometimes as a country, as a whole, sometimes it's culturally related as well, sometimes it's because they worked on it, where they actually come with that attitude where they walk in with that thought process that they're winning, or they're just seeming at least mentally very, very strong when they go on field, and it impacts the performance. It also to a certain extent intimidates the other side as well.
Yeah.
So where do these mental dynamics come into play when it comes to country work?
I think, like you said, yeah, Australia is a very good example, and taking the cricket team as well.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Australia, knowing one of the strongest.
Walking with that.
Their body language. In general, if you see during a match or a final, the body language that they hold. So I would say yes, I'm sure. I can't say definitely, but yeah, I'm sure they have that support group with a mental health expert helping them. But also, again, like I said, environment plays a big role. I would say India is getting towards becoming a sporting nation, but I think we still have a very long way to go in terms of culture. Exactly. I think Australia, we're talking about Australia, for that matter, I would say UK being there. The sporting culture is very much there. Where India is concerned, I think we are getting there, but we have a lot to work on.
Every athlete has his or her set of struggles to have reached where they have to prove themselves from a sports perspective in a country like India, where parents are still getting their heads around sports as a career option.
Yeah.
So when it comes to parents and they have a sporting child who's now getting into a pathway, how important is their intervention? And I've seen a lot of this because many of the athletes who have issues are usually a lot of childhood parents or sometimes quitting because of parent depression. I being a parent, I also understand there's a very fine line between how much you want to push your child and motivate your child to succeed because they have it in them versus when to hold back and to let them do it themselves. So what would be your advice to parents of young athletes?
While you were saying that, I had a flashback of my own growing up years. It was, again, I'll just tell you briefly about that story. So growing up, of course, I did feel a lot of pressure from my family, from parents, and specifically, I would say my dad. And again, that whole notion, you have to win, you need to win. And somewhere I would say that's justifiable as well, because of course, parenting is not an easy job. Full marks to you there as well, or any parent. But the thing is, how do parents also manage their own emotions? Parents have their own expectations from the child. The child has their own expectations. Parents are also navigating their own work-life balance. So there are a lot of demands, financial pressure is also one. So knowingly, unknowingly, a lot of those pressures are transferred onto the child. And I'll just again give you an example. Recently, I came across my baby book, which I never thought existed. And there in a section of my dad's, it was, what do you want your child to be when she or he grows up? And I came across, I want my child to be a sports person and play Wimbledon. And then now I can relate to it where those demands or his expectations came onto me and put pressure on me. So somewhere, again, like you said, parents, I think it's very, very important for us to understand our own expectations.
Yeah. And also to distinguish what is our own expectation and what we want for our child, probably, right? So they're two different things sometimes, and to put our expectations and ambitions onto the child
Absolutely.
is something one needs to avoid.
And just for parents, what I tell them is just need to evaluate our expectations from our child. Is it helping them or hurting them? Exactly. That question, self-reflecting, that this is what I want from my child.
It is unknowing. So the parent, through that journey of wanting their child to succeed, thinking it's best for them, sometimes tends to forget that that process may or may not be working.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my practice, I would like to say a lot of parents are coming forward to really wanting to know what they can do better to support their child. And especially on sidelines, they're like, when we go see our child compete, we are extremely anxious. We don't know how to handle our own emotions. And that somewhere gets transferred onto the child.
Absolutely. So now if you were to go back after all this knowledge that I have gained, that through your own personal journey, you were to go back to that 8 to 10-year-old girl and apply all of that to her, do you think it would be a call for killing?
That's a really difficult question. Who knows? I might have retained the enjoyment for the sport.
Yeah.
I would say
At least
that.
So we really hope now, thanks to people like you, more athletes thrive and enjoy their sport. Most importantly, enjoy their sport. Results will come anyway.
Absolutely. Focus on the process and the end goal will find itself.
Thank you so much. Thanks for spending time.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.